Well, Governor Branstad is out of step even with other Republican governors. Folks are trying to hold his feet to the fire on the wisdom of expanding Medicaid. He ain't hearing nothing of it. We've got two people who know a bit about this subject and wrote very provocative and interesting and informative editorials in the Des Moines Register recently. That will be Charlie Bruner and Ann Kinsel. We've got more to talk about as well today, but that's the kickoff today on today's Fallon Forum.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Ed Fallon here, folks. Gateway Market and Cafe is your locally owned source for specialty groceries. Enjoy chef-crafted, prepared foods, artisan baked goods, organic produce, specialty cheeses, and hand-selected wines and craft beer. Visit the lively cafe for breakfast, lunch, or dinner 7 days a week. Gateway Market is centrally located on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway and Woodland Ave. Stop by or visit www.gatewaymarket.com for more details. That's Gateway Market, folks. Good food, great community.
This moment of silence brought to you by Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering, home of Des Moines' premier rooftop dining experience. Located in the heart of Beaverdale, Tally's offers speedy and affordable rooftop lunch, catering for events both large and small, innovative cuisine, as well as vegetarian and gluten-free menus. Come to Tally's for live music, dry-aged steaks, Sunday brunch, and all-you-can-eat ribs every Monday night. Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering at 2712 Beaver Avenue. Call 279-2067. That's 279-2067.
On March 28th, Equal Justice After Hours is Iowa Legal Aid's annual fundraiser that helps provide access to justice for low-income Iowans. The event includes a reception and program at the Temple for the Performing Arts in Des Moines. It also includes remarks by Georgetown University law professor Peter Edelman and the induction of Robert Oberbilly into the Iowa Legal Aid Hall of Fame. Tickets start at $50 and sponsorship opportunities are available. Contact Terry Bennett at tbennett@iowalaw.org. That's tbennett@iowalaw.org.
Ludwig van Beethoven here. I used to be so tired all the time, not from composing and playing, but from moving my piano. But now I feel so much better. I call S&P Piano and they will bring my piano anywhere. They also sell and rent pianos, used ones, new ones. You get the idea.
Call S&P Piano right away at 208-6453. That's 208-6453.
S&P Piano.
Times are tough, and most people are just trying to make their cars last a little bit longer. That's why you should know about Sargent's Garage in Des Moines. You can trust Sargent's to make the right diagnosis and give you a fair price. Whether it's a routine oil change or a major repair, Sargent's always does outstanding work. So don't give up on that old car just yet. Call Sargent's Garage at 246-8149. That's 246-8149 for Sargent's Garage.
Nestled in the heart of downtown, Ritual Cafe is one of Des Moines' most unique places, offering a wide variety of coffee and tea. Ritual Cafe also serves the only all-vegetarian menu in town. And Ritual Cafe is a cultural hub for artists and musicians, with a performance stage hosting local, national, and international talent. Make Ritual Cafe a part of your daily ritual. On 13th Street between Locust and Grand in downtown Des Moines. And check out ritualcafe.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Greetings, Des Moines. And for those of you not in Des Moines, welcome to the cultural and culinary crossroads of America. Yeah, we got it all here, folks, and you know it, and America is rapidly figuring that out as well. I want to thank Brother Trucker for that tune, Downtown, kicking us off. I want to thank the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club and also Physicians for Social Responsibility, the Iowa chapter of that group. And I want to thank Gateway Market for sponsoring this segment of our show. Later in the program, we're going to talk about the vote last night at the Des Moines Public School District's board meeting, confirming and basically approving a contract to hire Tom Ahart as the new superintendent. Very excited about that. Very puzzled by Terry Caldwell Johnson's lack of any interest in talking with anyone about why she felt she did about the issue. Anyway, we'll talk about that a bit. I also want to talk about the county redistricting bill. This sounds like small stuff inside baseball. It's actually interesting, and I think I find myself on the Republican side of this one. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the program. I also want to talk a little bit more about the climate change issue. You know, okay, face it, I'm going to talk about climate change every day in some capacity because it is a crisis. Wake up, America. We got to do something, and we got to do it now. And we'll talk a little bit about that later in the program. We'll also talk about Branstad and defending the Orascom, or as I call it, Orascam, fertilizer plant. Speaking of Governor Branstad and defending the indefensible, he is somehow making the case that he should not expand Medicaid. He is in a rapidly shrinking pool of anybody who thinks that's a good idea. And yet he is like pounding his fist, insisting, yes, we're not going to do this. No, bad idea. What if the federal government runs out of money? Well, I'd love to hear him say that to farmers. Hey, you know, we've decided to decline federal farm payments because you never know when those feds might run out of money. Well, it's a bad idea according to a lot of other Republican governors. And it is a bad idea according to the two guests I've got in my studio. And I would love to have somebody come in and defend the governor on this. Heck, I'd love to have the governor or somebody from his staff come in and defend it. We've had no luck accomplishing that. So we are left, again, I'm happy to be left with two guests today that are very, very competent on this issue, wrote very articulately about it, but are on my side of the issue, not on Governor Branstad. So it's kind of a lopsided conversation, but I did try, and I will continue to try. Charlie Bruner and Ann Kinsel, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being here. Before you lay out why you think the governor should expand Medicaid, can you help me with a simple problem? What is he thinking? Where is he coming from? And Charlie, you served in the legislature as well. Now, we never served together. You were before me, but we both served under Governor Branstad. So maybe we know a little bit about how that mind works, but I can't for the life of me understand why he's digging his heels in so deep on this, where he's coming from. What's your take?
Well, I think that the governor's stated positions really in opposition to expanding Medicaid, at least as far as is allowed under federal law, because his alternative proposal is an expansion of Medicaid.
You mean his proposal to expand Iowa Care?
His proposal is now to adopt a new Healthy Iowa program, which would cover the same people as covered by Iowa Care and actually would cover a lot more people under 100% of poverty. So he is talking about expanding Medicaid, but he's talking about doing it on different terms. His major opposition has been, one, he said that you can't trust the federal government for continuing to support Medicaid.
Right.
In fact, Medicaid was established in 1963, and the federal government has maintained its support of Medicaid throughout that time. And Iowa, and the program has expanded because Iowa has taken advantage of new federal opportunities. And he claims that Medicaid is not providing for healthy, has not improved health of the population it served, and he wants to do something around inducing healthy behaviors through alternatives and primarily premium sharing.
Maybe he should start by doing what Tom Vilsack did and running home from the state capitol to the governor's mansion in the evenings. And he doesn't look all that healthy himself to me, but anyway, that's an aside. And what's your take on it? Where is he coming from? What's this all about?
Well, you know, he's telling us that he's afraid that the federal government won't be able to meet its promises long term. I guess that's something that you can worry about.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but if you're really worried about the future of the country, sure, you're going to be worried about entitlement expenses for health care. We get that, but we don't live in the future. We live right here today.
Yeah. And again, you could make that argument about all sorts of aspects of federal spending. And I think a lot of us, and people are legitimately concerned about the health and well-being of the federal budget and the competence of the U.S. Congress, for that matter. You know, that's a legitimate concern, but to somehow single out one program, and really it looks to me like he's using that argument as an excuse to buck the trend on this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that he's called for not spending any money on the roads this next road season.
Yeah, well,
most of that money's federal.
Right,
why healthcare?
Sure, yeah. Let's abandon all road construction, all road repair. Haven't heard him call for that.
And the federal law initially was going to apply regarding Medicaid expansion across the 50 states, and the law was ruled constitutional by the Supreme Court. But they said because this was a substantial and non-incremental expansion of Medicaid, that this was open to states choosing to opt in or opt out of Medicaid expansion up to 138% of poverty. The federal government has committed to assuming 100% of the costs for that expansion for the next 3 years, and that going down to 90% over the next 5 years. So the lion's share of the costs are going to be assumed by the federal government. We're going to be paying that cost for the expansion that goes on in New York and California as national taxpayers. That's why other Republican governors have said, we're going to go forward. If the federal government chooses to change that formula, which they've not changed formulas in the past on Medicaid, except to make them more generous to states, then we could rethink that expansion. Sure. But right now, that is part of that. And the Affordable Care Act is actually a complex piece of legislation. And the expansion for Medicaid was in part financed by a recognition that hospitals would not have as many charity and bad debt patients, and that they would be relieved of some of that burden of providing for people who are uninsured.
I do.
And therefore, they had a reduction in their Medicare payments, which are going into effect regardless of whether we expand.
And I do want to talk more, get your broader take on the Affordable Care Act. Folks, we're talking with Charlie Bruner today. He's with the Child and Family Policy Center, and we're talking with Ann Kinzel. She's with herself. They both wrote very good editorials on this subject, opinion pieces on this subject, maybe about 2 weeks ago in the Des Moines Register, which are still, I believe, available online. You can join the conversation anytime, folks, at the number on your screen. I'll say it for you. It's 244-0077, 244-0077, or toll free, it's 855-244-0077. I love saying that. It makes me sound like a secret agent, 0077. You can also email me at fallonforum@gmail.com. Two questions, and let's start with you, Ann. How much does the state of Iowa stand to lose if if he gets his way on this Medicaid thing?
Well, I mean, it depends. Are you talking about money, or are you talking about credibility? Are you talking about compassion for people?
Let's start with money, but I like the way you're going with this.
Well, money, I think it's in the range of several $1 billion over time. I'm not sure exactly what the exact amount is, but I'm not so much worried about the money, Ed. I'm worried about the way it makes us look. There are states with exceedingly conservative governors who have decided to expand Medicaid. That is, cover people who are among the poorest amongst us. And Iowa, is this what we want to be known as? The state that just left people, Iowa, the doesn't care state? I mean, where are we going with this? It's really not about the money. Well, it's about the people.
It's not about, yes. But there is a money issue. There's an image issue, but there's also a concrete impact on kids, low-income kids for the most part, not just low-income kids, but low-income people, working people for that matter, who can't afford insurance. Mm-hmm. Case in point right here, I cannot afford insurance. But when they jacked my rates up they doubled my rates a couple years ago. I said, well, see you later. You've made the product unaffordable. Now, I know that will have to change at the end of this year, but I mean, there's a lot of folks, a growing number of people who are uninsured for one reason or another, and many of us working hard and working full time.
Well, a lot of folks said, perhaps you among them, are going to be able to go onto these healthcare exchanges. We're going to get one eventually in Iowa, and there will be significant subsidies up to 400% of the federal poverty level for that. When we talk about Medicaid, we're really talking about folks who have very little income or very little expectation of future income.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
that's a really good point. There's a distinction between, the broadening of healthcare availability through the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid itself. Sure.
That's correct. I mean, we don't hear Governor Branstad complaining that people are going to get care on the exchange or be insured in the exchange up to 400% of the federal poverty level. That's your tax dollars, my tax dollars, everybody's tax dollars are going to pay for that. Somehow we've singled out the poorest and the least able among us, the Medicaid population, to somehow be the brunt of anger about truly expanding affordable health care coverage in the United States.
Now, Charlie, you're on the cutting edge of research relevant to children in poverty. I mean, what did you see in terms of the eventual impact on the Medicaid population if the governor should get his way and Iowa should not agree to expand Medicaid?
Well, I look at the parents of those kids who are not now covered. And Ann and I both have worked with the Iowa Caregivers Association. They did a survey a couple of years ago, and those people who are home health care workers or in nursing homes or in hospitals caring for other people make on average about $10 an hour, about $20,000 a year full time. Many are not covered under their employers, nor can they afford to be covered under their employers. What we found is that for single moms with 2 kids, this is the type of individual who would be covered under Medicaid, who would now have coverage. She gets her kids covered under Medicaid, but she doesn't have coverage. And she's making a decision about whether to buy those kids a winter coat or meet other household needs or to put money into her health coverage. She's making $20,000 a year working full time. That's the type of person who would be covered under this program. What it means is if she were covered, she'd have access to primary and preventive health services.
Preventive, that's key.
She wouldn't run the risk of saying, I'm not going to do something because I hope it doesn't get worse. I hope my sinus infection doesn't get worse. And I run the risk, but eventually,
Or I hope
what
this
happens?
lump, I hope this lump in my arm goes away.
I hope this lump in this arm goes away. Then, sadly, when they do get in trouble, they end up in an emergency room or a hospital. They end up being covered and receiving some care, but too late,
And a lot more
they end up
expensive.
going into medical debt.
Sure. Well, or some other source picks up the cost
Right.
because
So it makes sense if we want to be the healthiest state in the nation to have a way for people to be covered and then to be able to receive primary health care services.
It just seems like there's a phenomenal disconnect in the governor's mind on the issue of wanting to be the healthiest state in the nation. He keeps talking about that. He's been taking some initiative on that, and yet unable to see. Maybe it's maybe he wants Iowa to be the healthiest state in the nation for those with incomes above a certain level. I mean, maybe he's just kind of so uninterested in that low-income population, that Medicaid population, that it doesn't even register in his paradigm. I don't know. I'm trying to sort this out. Maybe that's a bit harsh.
I don't know that it's a bit harsh. I mean, I think you have to take things at face value and what people show you. And the governor has showed us his cards, okay? Simply put, when it comes to access to health care for low-income people, he just doesn't care. And if somebody wants to challenge me on that, that's fine. But show me how he does.
Well,
Okay, the Affordable Care Act and the federal government and the taxpayers of the United States have said we are going to make money available for every state, okay, the vast 90% of the money available, and we're turning it away.
Yep.
If that's caring about the health of low-income people, show me another card, because I'm not getting it. Because Iowa Care was a stopgap program that was designed when we didn't have the funding, we didn't have the money. Okay, if you live in Sioux City and you need care in Iowa City,
You wave at Broadlands as you drive past. You can't. That's your option.
and you don't have a car that's
Yeah.
too reliable to get you there.
Right.
And once you're there, you have no hotel if you need to stay for a couple of days.
But they have
Is
nice
that
bridges
care?
in Iowa City, Ann.
Oh, come on, that's not Iowa.
I'm
You know,
kidding.
when the
I'm
money's
kidding.
there, if we stick with that, it's Iowa
I know.
doesn't care.
Yeah, well, good point. Well, one more question before we run to a break. Charlie, you and I both served in the legislature with Governor Branstad. I served for 6 years while he was governor, and I don't know how many years you served.
Served 12 years.
While he was governor?
No, 8 years while he was governor.
Okay, so we're about the same. I do not remember Governor Branstad being this mean-spirited. I mean, I'm going to call, I see it as very mean-spirited. This is not the Governor Branstad that I remember seeing when I was serving with him in the Iowa House. And if anything, I would have assumed that, working at a college that is focused on providing medical care, making Iowans healthy, you would think he would have developed even more sensitivity to people in need of medical assistance. But it just seems like he's gone the other direction, and I'm not, for the life of me, able to sort it out. Would you agree that he is harsher, less reasonable now than he was when you served with him?
Well, I think apparently this is the case with respect to Medicaid expansion. He did generally compromise and try to find the middle solution, even if he had a more conservative view on issues
Right.
when I was in the legislature. And I worked with him in his office on a number of different things. Find it interesting. We worked to be one of the first in the nation to establish an earned income tax credit, which
Right.
the
And
governor
he signed that.
He signed that. But on this, his position, one of his positions has been, we don't want to expand a program until we improve it or reform it, and we have to do something to promote healthier lifestyles. And I hope he gets away from the position of we're not going to do anything here unless we do it my way, to look at what can we do to improve lifestyles in the Medicaid program. What can we do in the way of incentive supports, compacts, and other things that can promote healthier living? And I think that there are ways of doing that within the context of Medicaid. I don't think that his proposals around premiums and sanctions, they've been proved not to be effective in the past. They won't be allowed by the federal government in a waiver anyway. I don't think that's going to be effective, but I think if could move to say, here's something that you can get and hang your hat on, let's try some things that provide more cost-conscious and promote healthy lifestyles.
But sure, and again, the Affordable Care Act does place greater emphasis on primary care and on preventive care, and that, I think, would be an encouraging development and one compatible with Governor Brandt's interest in creating a healthier Iowa. We're going to go to a break here, folks. I want to thank Gateway Market for sponsoring this segment of our show. Gateway is at 20th and Woodland. Emergency pit stop. I ran to Gateway this morning because I was out of milk. I had folks coming over for pancakes, celebrating a birthday. You do not want to be out of milk when you're making pancakes. So Gateway has a great selection of picket fence dairy products. They've also got about 200 varieties of cheese, a fantastic selection of wine, and a gal, Abby, who knows all about that wine. I also discovered recently you can buy flowers, and I got some from 2 weeks ago that are still providing a wonderful fragrance to my dining room. And I also got some seeds because I am big into planting seeds. I've got some herbs from botanical interests that are for sale at Gateway Market. Of course, also the cafe, open for breakfast, lunch, and supper. Check them out, folks. Keep your money local. We've got great grocery stores that are owned by people in our community. No need to ship your grocery dollars to some corporate headquarters in, say, Austin, Texas. Thanks, folks. We'll be back in a few minutes. We're going to continue this conversation with Charlie Bruner and Ann Kinsel as we talk a little bit more broadly about the Affordable Care Act.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
The dawn of a new era begins.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 101 of WebcastOneLive.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait, howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live, and thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together, and we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going, man.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
We are back, and Mr. Baber's Neighbors is kicking it off here, folks. We were talking today with Charlie Bruner with Ann Kinsel about Medicaid, about the Affordable Care Act. We're going to talk about a few other things, including the school board vote in Des Moines last night, the decision on Tom Ahart's contract. We're going to talk a little bit about climate change because we have to, a little bit on the county redistricting plan, and also about the fertilizer plant. That's the last segment. We got one more conversation to go on healthcare reform here. And looking at our mail, I tell you what, I want to get your take on the Affordable Care Act, but we did get a question, so let me throw this question out to my guests. Russ asks, is Branstad making any money off refusing to accept those Medicaid monies, or is it just politics? Who wants to take a crack at that one?
I think it's politics. It's a way of establishing his bona fides for whatever future interests he has in politics with a group of folks who just basically see government spending as a negative, no matter.
So who are those folks?
Well, I'm not sure because I don't know any.
We're talking Tea Party. We're talking donors who represent health insurance, drug company interests, or what are we talking about?
In fact, I think the Iowa Hospital Association is very big on Medicaid expansion. Those, as Charlie mentioned earlier, those providers who gave up some money under the Affordable Care Act, under their Medicare payments, in return for picking up some of what had formerly been charity care and making it into Medicaid. They're losers.
We've looked at organizations which have endorsed Medicaid expansion. I think there are 109 different organizations, including the Cancer Society, the AARP, the Iowa Hospital Association, and the Iowa Medical Society. And there's nobody signed up in opposition to the legislation going forward in the Senate. So
there's nobody supporting Governor Branstad. None of the interest groups that have a stake to establish in the healthcare debate support Governor Branstad's position. So again, I guess I'm wondering whether you're right. I mean, what is the political benefit to Branstad of taking this stand? Other than a handful of real crazy types on the far right, maybe Steve King is happy with this. I can't imagine reasonable Republicans think this is a good idea. I can't imagine there's much of a base that he's pandering to.
Well, we're in the middle of a sequester right now. There's a lot of concern.
I forgot all about that. It came and it went, and I just didn't notice. But
there's a lot of concern about expenses in federal expenses and in healthcare entitlements in particular. So I understand that people are worried about national debt, but I don't see that not expanding the Medicaid program in Iowa is going to actually reduce our national debt, and in return, it would really harm a lot of good folks who wouldn't have access to care. So we're not going to fix the national debt. So maybe Governor Branstad's supporters there, folks, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen with this. But on the other side, we're going to miss maybe an opportunity to help make some people's lives a little less hard.
And to the other half of Russ's question, is Branstad gaining anything financially from taking this position? Is there any personal benefit or any benefit to his political war chest from this stand?
I can't see any benefit. Obviously, his campaign office sent out a fundraiser on his war with the register on this, and trying to get some funding. But I can't imagine that is going to be a substantial amount of funding, or that he can't appeal to his base in other ways.
Yeah.
So I don't think I think it really is deeply ideological, and I hope he finally puts behind that and looks for a way of achieving what his interests are, which he stated he wants us to be the healthiest state in the country, and he does want people to engage in healthier lifestyles, and he's got to recognize that Medicaid covers right now 35% of all our kids in this state, and if we're going to have a future generation that's healthier, we need to do something. We need to do something now.
Maybe his reticence is simply that he has dug his heels in, and he can't back out without losing face. I don't know. Let's leave it at that. We just can't know for sure. But onto the bigger question of the Affordable Care Act. Again, I've got awfully strong lukewarm feelings about it. Ann, what's your take on the Affordable Care Act?
Well, I think the Affordable Care Act, nobody's going to deny it's a significant piece of legislation. Okay, we've been trying to attack this healthcare nut for years. It's the furthest we've gotten. But if you step back and look at the size of our problems, and you look at the Affordable Care Act, it seems to me we haven't gone far enough. One of the things with the Affordable Care Act is it maintains a system of private health insurance. Now, certainly in Iowa, a lot of people, insurance is a big thing. People make money. They make their livings on that. But health insurance and car insurance or property insurance are very different things.
But the ACA doesn't just maintain the system of private health insurance; it strengthens it. My take is it makes it digs us deeper into that commitment. And to me, that was evidenced by the fact that the day this law was enacted, insurance company stocks on Wall Street went up.
Well, sure, because there's something in healthcare kind of known as the death spiral. Sounds really sexy, but it's not.
Sounds like a Star Trek reference to me.
Yeah, it's not that great. But what it means is when you, let's say you have 100 people who are covered in a group, and costs go up, and the next year the people have to pay 10% more for that premium. Okay, so a bunch of them, the healthy ones, they drop out, and they say, I'm not going to pay that much more money. And so now you're down to a group of about 90 people, and it costs more. So the next year, more people keep dropping out.
I see.
Well, the Affordable Care Act sort of gives them health insurance companies a great deal. Right. It eliminates the death spiral because everybody's got to be covered.
It gives them a good deal. Is there a trickle-down benefit to the rest of us from that good deal?
Well, I think that you can't really start talking about reforming our health system if half the people are or 10 or 15%, and often the sickest people are outside of the health coverage system, and gaining sporadic care for life-threatening conditions. So I do think you have to have coverage, and I do think we want to make it possible that everybody does have health coverage. And if you look at the number one cause of bankruptcy is medical debt, and we've got to do that. But if we're going to have a healthier society, we've got to move beyond medical care, and we've got to address other issues. We're a child and family policy center, and for the first time in our country's history, kids face the prospect of growing up less healthy and living less long lives and being less able to compete in the world economy. And that's not related to the medical technology and advances of our ability to treat illness. It's due to obesity, lifestyle, environmental contaminants, and we have to address those issues if we're going to have a healthier society. So I do think that we've got to reorient our overall health system away from medical technology as the total fix on all of our society's concerns to addressing issues that are going to make people just generally healthier.
Yeah. Well, and that sounds like potentially an endorsement for a tax on soda pop.
Right.
Well, anyway.
Right. No, and I felt like there should be a tax on Happy Meals if they don't provide nutritional, alternatives that are going to be healthier for kids. I mean, there are a lot of things I think that we could do to be creative around this.
And if we thought the affordable health care was controversial, we'll see what kind of conversation that generates. We already saw what kind of conversation it generated with Mayor Bloomberg's decision.
Yeah. But we do have a tax on pop in Iowa. So
We do have a.
We have a tax on pop. The tax on pop is how much our health insurance premiums keep going up. So the decisions that we make that are in other areas besides health
Did you guys
policy,
rehearse that? That was good.
No. Besides health policy, there's a reason health insurance premiums keep going up, and that's because Americans keep getting sicker. So maybe the conversation ought to be, why is it that we are producing as a nation so much illness? And if you read an article last week in Time magazine that Stephen Brill wrote, what you'll see is there's a heck of a lot of Americans are earning a lot of money taking care of very sick people. So the more sick people we make, we have a whole class of people who make a whole lot of money, and the rest of us pay higher premiums.
Ironically, maybe I should say pathetically, illness is good for the economy because it all registers as economic growth. More people needing medical care. The GNP goes up.
Well, anytime,
more people needing psychiatric care, that helps the economy. So maybe part of it is not just that we need to move beyond a sick society, but we need to move beyond an economic model that is very limiting in terms of how it measures the vitality and health of our system.
Well, anytime you have two economists in a room, they're going to disagree about what is growth and what is not growth. But you're absolutely right. I mean, right now, the sickness that we create harms some, but it does benefit others. And the Affordable Care Act never really gets into that conversation.
Right. One last question. The mandate. That is possibly the most controversial element of the Affordable Care Act. I don't like it one bit. I don't like being told I have to go out and buy insurance any more than I would like being, any more than I would want to live in a town that tells me I've got to go out and buy a gun. It rubs me the wrong way to be told I've got to buy something, especially if the product I'm instructed to buy is not affordable. But I understand how it's hard to get around that with the Affordable Care Act, in part financed by folks buying into the system. But what's your take on the mandate?
Well, I think there's two things working there, Ed. I mean, if you're talking about being told to buy something, and under the Affordable Care Act, the mandate says that you have to buy a private product. I don't know if you would feel differently if you had to pay for your health care through your taxes. Okay, you'd still be told to buy something, but it'd be in a different form. But I think we're kind of disingenuous with the mandate, because when I go to work, I don't know, I'm lucky enough that my employer uses some of my wages, my hard-earned money, to buy health insurance for me to use. And we have one company, which will go unnamed. That's my choice. Okay. Now, if I decided suddenly tomorrow that I didn't want my money that I earn to go towards health insurance, and I walked into the benefits office where I work and said, hey, that $13,000 that you tell me you use to buy health care for me? I don't want to buy health care anymore. I want the cash. In fact, I'd like the cash, and I'm going to go out and turn around, and I'm feeling lucky in life's roulette, and I'm going to buy me a cheap policy. So give me that cash, and that's what I'm going to do. Now tell me, didn't I have a mandate before the Affordable Care Act? Wasn't I told how to spend my money before the act? I didn't have any choice. There's no more mandate in the Affordable Care Act than there was the day before it was passed.
And I agree with what Anna's saying. Actually, the mandate was established within the Affordable Care Act as a concession or an agreement to the insurance industry that said that if we didn't have a mandate, we wouldn't have people enrolling in the exchange in ways that could keep it affordable. And we want to have something that is in the private sector that's affordable. I think what is going to be the proof in the pudding is, do we create insurance exchanges where people really find that they're getting health insurance coverage that benefits them at affordable rates? I think the vast majority of people are going to want that. So I don't think that but I think that the whole thing really does stem down to, do we want to have a system where everybody has access to some level of coverage, and that as a society, we're going to have to contribute to making that happen?
Bottom line on the ACA, you're okay with the mandate in the limited success that's been achieved. You'd both like to see the ACA go a lot further, I think. Summary? Fair enough?
I'd like to see our society go a lot further in promoting health in everything that we do, not just talking about health care. Coming back to Governor Branstad, if he wants to promote healthy behaviors, I hope that he wants to promote that across society. I happen to think that the first step in healthy behaviors is making sure that people have the ability to seek care when they need it.
Yeah.
And without a Medicaid expansion, a whole bunch of people in our state simply will not be able to seek adequate care when they need it.
Well, Ann and Charlie, thank you so much for joining us in the studio. It was a pleasure to read your opinion pieces side by side in the Register, and it's even more delightful to have you side by side in the studio discussing this issue with me and with my audience. So, again, thanks so much for joining us. Folks, when we come back, we're going to talk about, again, the Orascom fertilizer plant briefly. Big news to report on the climate change march. We're going to talk about the school board decision here in Des Moines to select Tom Ahart as the new superintendent. That's a lot to cover in 10 minutes. We're going to do it. I do want to thank Community CPA and Associates for sponsoring this segment of our show. Yeah, there's no mandate that you've got to go out and buy somebody to help you do your taxes, but it's a really, really good idea. Anytime I've tried to do my taxes on my own, it's been a disaster. Now maybe you can figure it out, but I tell you what, if you're a single person, if you've got a W-2 form, if you're filing W-2s, you can have your taxes done for $97 with Community CPA. Give them a shout at 288-3188. That's 288-3188. I'll be back in a minute.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Community CPA is the 15th largest CPA firm in Iowa, providing audit, tax, and accounting services. Community CPA specializes in international tax treaty and double taxation avoidance among countries and states. 9 dedicated, experienced, hardworking staff are the company's foundation, and their compassion towards every client is the secret behind Community CPA's success. At Community CPA, you can expect quality service year-round. Call 288-3188. Community CPA, 3816 Ingersoll. Experience the difference.
This is Dr. Holding of the Story County Veterinary Clinic. For 15 years, we have been spaying and neutering feral cat groups at affordable prices. Wild cats destroy game birds and songbirds. A single female cat can produce over 4,000 kittens in 7 years. The shelters are full, so unwanted kittens will be put to sleep. Your cats will stay home and stay healthy. Call us for all your dog and cat needs at the Story County Veterinary Clinic between Ames and Nevada on Highway 30, 1 mile east of Interstate 35, 515-232-8766.
Since 1994, Sid's Catering has graced Des Moines area events with quality service and rave reviews. Owner Sid Cohn's culinary career began with a Northeast Iowa vacation home for international clientele. Sid earned a Bachelor of Science in Hotel Restaurant Management and was the assistant clubhouse manager at Des Moines Golf and Country Club. Sid has a passion for fresh, local products and offers a wide range of options, including vegan, gluten-free, and ethnic. Mention the Fallon Forum when you book your breakfast or lunch event and get 10% off. Contact Sid's Catering at 208-2091. That's Sid's Catering at 208-2091.
Local farms, global flavor. That's the secret to Hawk's growing popularity. The best meals begin with the best ingredients, and 90% of Hawk's ingredients come from local farms. In addition to seasonal fruits and vegetables, Hawk features grass-fed beef and lamb, and pasture-raised chicken and duck, all raised without hormones, steroids, or cages. The coffee is fair trade, locally roasted, and Hawk's House liquors come from right here in Iowa. Hawk's owners go the extra mile, composting organic waste and recycling. For more information or to make reservations, visit hawktable.com. That's HOQ-table.com.
It's time to think about upgrading the efficiency of your furnace and air conditioner. Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling has provided honest, competent service for over 20 years. Whether it's your home or business, for repair work or to install a more energy-efficient furnace or air conditioner, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422. That's 263-0422. For honest, competent heating and cooling service, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422.
I love driving to Newton to see the
Me
races.
too, but I only have to drive across town.
You live in Newton?
Yep, Newton's got small town charm and it's close to Des Moines. I love the safe, friendly neighborhoods and family-owned businesses. And Newton's wind energy industry is really taking off.
How'd you find your home?
Dan Kelly with First Choice Realty. And Dan helped me find my office too.
Next time, instead of just speeding by, I'll stop in and check out Newton.
Why don't you check out Newton? Call Dan Kelly at 641-521-9260 or Dan Kelly at mchsi.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm not the guy who cared about love. I'm not the guy who cared about fortune.
Welcome back, folks. That's Max Wellman, and he's got a concert tonight. Check it out at, I think, 7 p.m. at the 4th Street Theater. Max Wellman. Gosh, always a great concert for an extremely reasonable price. I think tickets are $10 a pop. Let's see. I want to start with a little conversation about Tom Ahart. I was delighted personally to see him selected as the new superintendent. He'd been doing the job as the interim superintendent for, close to a year. And made a lot of sense because the last two school superintendents in Des Moines, I mean, in my opinion, and in the opinions of a lot of people, did not work out real well. Nancy Sebring, enough said. Eric Witherspoon, think destruction of neighborhood schools and being kind of sold a bill of goods on the so-called local option sales tax. Anyway, I was delighted to see the board shop local and select Tom Ahart. And I was happy last night to see that they voted to approve his contract. They voted by a 4-3 margin. So that's not a huge margin of victory, but it's enough. What really bothers me, again, all right, so you got the dissenting votes. Pat Sweeney says, we had the opportunity to have all 7 board members to have input into a candidate and also pick a consensus candidate. I don't think that happened with this board. Okay, at least he said something. Joe Jungleward, cute quote, indeed, if the LeBron James of superintendents applied for this position, I believe the majority of our board would have reached the same decision. That's a cute quote. At least it's a quote. It's something. Well, here's Terry Caldwell Johnson. She was asked by this is in the Des Moines Register today. Did not offer any comments at the board meeting, and afterwards she told a reporter, quote, I'm not really at liberty to discuss my vote with you. I had my conversation with Mr. Ahart about why I voted the way I did. That's who I needed to share that information with, not the media. What the heck is she talking about? Not at liberty? Who is keeping you from being at liberty of telling us why you made a decision? You are a public official. You are elected to represent the public interest. You know, you can't tell us why you're making decisions. I mean, it's bad enough that the board did all this in secrecy. It's bad enough that government in general is becoming more inclined to do things behind closed doors. You know, when you have the arrogance to tell us that you're not even going to respond to a question about why you voted, you're, quote, not at liberty, give me a break. Give me a break. And folks, I don't know who's up for election this fall on the school board, but if Terry Caldwell Johnson is one of them, time to say goodbye. I mean, that's not, and again, I don't know Terry that well. I know she worked for the county for a while. I don't know her that well, but I see that and I'm outraged. Well, can you tell? You know, that's not what I expect or want in a public servant. And I strongly suspect most people would find that very, very objectionable. So, yeah, let's see who's on the ballot this fall. And if you're thinking about running for the school board, now would be a good time to get started. Okay, a couple more things here real quick. A county redistricting bill passed the Iowa House. Okay, this is a bill. Right now, in Iowa, we do some things very, very well. Some things we do very, very badly. One thing we do very, very well is create new boundaries every 10 years. When the Census Bureau comes up with new numbers and we are required by law to create new congressional districts, new legislative districts, we do it with a nonpartisan agency. And it is almost always fair and balanced. Yeah, unlike Fox. There are states that gerrymander with incredible impunity. The only place in Iowa where you get gerrymandering is right here in Polk County. And now possibly that might happen in Lynn County as well, now that they've gone to the award system. I don't know. But in Polk County, it happens, and you've got a Democratic majority on the board that craft districts that tend to benefit the incumbents and will benefit future Democrats. That is unfortunate, and this bill would change that. Now, again, I was a Democrat for a long time. I'm independent now. I don't have a horse in this fight. Race. There we go. And you know that dog in this fight metaphor. I will never say that again. And if I do, really correct me. It's a horrible metaphor. We don't have a horse in this race. But I see that the vote in the House was 54-44. Now I don't know for sure, but I suspect it was a partisan vote. I'm not entirely sure of that, but from what I've heard talked about here, it was a partisan vote. Now, I think Democrats who believe in fairness should be supporting that. I think anybody should be supporting that because it's not fair when a majority of 3 get to craft boundaries that exclude folks of the other persuasion, other party. Regardless of whether it's the Democratic majority or Republican majority, it's wrong. And I commend the House for doing this. I may be commending the Republicans in that case. So, all right, Branstad. Again, lately, last week, coming out against the secrecy at the Des Moines Public School District, and when they were looking at the superintendent candidates, now he's coming out and defending his action on the fertilizer plant. Again, a lot of that action was taken in private, behind closed doors. Again, government operating in secrecy. This one, of course, is costing the taxpayers a ton of money, both state taxpayers, federal taxpayers, and Lee County taxpayers. Again, it's all the same taxpayer. But it's costing us a bunch of money, and Branstad is defending how he has managed this boondoggle. I'm going to call it a boondoggle. It's not only an incredible amount of money, but with the lawsuit going on regarding Orscom's what do I want to say? Misuse of a process in terms of a federal money. There's a lot of question about where this is going to go. So we'll keep tabs on that. And I do want to talk more about that when we get a little more information. I'd love to have somebody from Branstad's office on the show, but I'm pretty sure that's probably not going to happen. So let's look at one more thing before we wrap up the program today, folks, and that is this. Again, if you're not concerned about climate change, if you don't see it as a crisis, I ask you, seriously, take a second look at what's going on. I mean, the heat spike we've seen in the past 100 years, culminating in the warmest decade in 11,000 years, not just looking at the 132 years of actual record keeping, but the information we now have available based on the study of temperatures using microorganisms in the ocean. We should be sounding the alarm. Okay, there have been people doing that for a while. I'm doing my part to sound the alarm by helping to organize this great March for Climate Action, and I'm happy to report that it's been going pretty well. It's hard to get the national media interested because they don't. There's not enough glitz to it, I don't think yet, and I'm not a fan of glitz. I'm a fan of just getting down to brass tacks and organizing. And that part is going very well. We've got close to 10 people now who have said they are either definitely interested in marching or really, really inclined. That's good. That's a start. Again, we're not even really actively looking for people to march yet. We want to get the foundation laid before we put the roof on, so to speak. But there are people now stepping forward to volunteer. I've got a couple people working with me, couple hours every day of the week, and we need more help. So if you're inclined to be involved with this, if you'd like to consider marching, if you can do something right now in terms of trying to volunteer, and if you know of if you yourself or you know of folks who would be able to donate financially, I mean, we've got to raise a bunch of money to pull this off. This is not going to be cheap. And I'm not even talking about the actual march. Sure, the march itself is going to be fairly expensive. when you're feeding 1,000 people, when you've got to get tents for them to sleep in, when you've got to haul vehicles that hopefully are run on biodiesel or some kind of more sustainable fuel, I mean, there's expense to be had with that. But we need resources to pull this off, to pull the organizational side of this off. It's going to be a big effort, and I'm delighted. I'm delighted to announce that I've had my first 2 $5,000 donations this week. So I'd love to see more of that happen. We have a nonprofit set up because this is not a partisan issue. This is not a political issue. This is an issue of education. Educating both elected officials of both parties, but also educating the general public about why we need to be moving fast on this and moving with great determination. Anyway, folks, happy news to report on that front. And again, if you want to learn more about the Climate March, you can find it on Facebook. There is a Facebook page appropriately named the Great March for Climate Action. You can also go to a website. It is a website in progress, so it won't be sharp and polished with all the bells and whistles people have come to expect with websites, but it's a good starting point. You can donate on there. You can learn more about the march. We've got some cool photographs going. So that's simply www.climatemarch.org, www.climatemarch.org. Again, I want to thank my guests, Charlie Bruner and Ann Kinsel. I want to thank Russ for submitting a question, which I think our guests handled quite well. And I want to thank you, the audience, for paying attention and tuning in. I want to thank Sid's Catering for sponsoring this segment of our show. Sid Cohn is the owner and operator of Sid's Catering, and she is very, very talented. Everything I've sampled that she has made is just incredible. And she has such a diversity. She can do all different kinds of ethnic food. She can also put together gluten-free menus, vegetarian menus, even vegan menus. She can cater any kind of party event. She's done plenty of political events. She also does breakfast and supper events, or breakfast and lunch events. There we go. So give her a shout, folks, at Sid's Catering. Online, it's cateringbysid.com, Catering by Sid. And again, thank you, folks, for tuning into the forum. Thank you, Maddie Arrington, my producer. Thank you, Webcast One Live, for supplying the studio. And thank you, Snow, for starting to melt. Be gone.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershad.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that you're